No.
All right, so let's get back to the filling your calendar with dates thing. Like, do you guys have any strategies that you use with filling your calendar? Because I mean, like one of the things that I used to do is I used to just like triple book them in an afternoon. It's like, okay, I got a
Yep.
Sunday afternoon off. I got a 1 o'clock, a 2:30, and a four, whatever, something like that.
Uh, yep. I stagger them. So so the one I like best, like I'll try to get earlier so I can spend the whole day. But if she flakes, the one I like best usually is the one who's going to flake most because she's
Yeah.
probably a little higher in SMV. So if she flakes, whatever, I'll do whatever else I had planned. The next girl comes through, so that always gives me the option to cancel on the other one. Which girls all know the game. They do that to us all the time too. Like 50% of them will flake, and that's a good flake rate for me. Usually it was like 66% or 80% before, so you get flake rate down. But I stagger them, and then that way, if I get a really cool one, and a lot of times where I live now, they have to go early because they all live with their parents until they're married. So I'm like, oh, this is a late night chick, or this is an early afternoon chick, or this is a midday chick. And if they cancel, okay, well, I'll just put a creative work block in there, or I'll get ahead on my sprint for the next couple of weeks. I'm talking workflows.
Yeah.
So just be flexible with it. And I schedule tentative, knowing of three, one will come through. Sometimes they all come through, sometimes none come through, and just
How
have
many
other
dates a
stuff
week would you
scheduled in
normally
your
book?
time.
How many dates a week? You know, would you normally book, Jaron?
Ooh, a week. I go tentative like 2 or 3 days out, but that's because I'm in a place where it's like naturally kind of a high flake culture already,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
aside
Where
from the
you're at,
central
it's a high flake.
marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've
Is that
found
like with Latins? Like
recently
you
that
find that Latins are higher flakers?
well, yeah, they'll forget to
With
have plans,
apps.
or well, their family comes first too, so they'll have
Right.
like legitimate reasons, like, oh, my grandma's dog got hit by a car in 2 states away, so I have to drive over there, and like that's
Right.
the actual excuse. This is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you have to account for cultural differences too. So I found
yeah.
if there's certain times during the day, like 8 p.m., I can jump on there. There's going to be inbounds on Bumble, like, hey, what are you doing tonight? It says in my profile what the experience is.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that sounds great. I would love to cuddle and smoke weed and play guitar. Oh, I sing. Great. Oh, do you play an oboe? Cool. Bring it over. Like 8 p.m. seems to be on a Sunday night, especially seems to be like the that. So in the moment, or day game works too,
Mm-hmm.
because no one's doing it
Okay.
anymore.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So I was
that's
gonna say. So
Okay, so let's
date
just keep moving around. So, like, your best
Yep.
tips to fill
Oh,
your calendar with
yeah, yeah.
dates.
I know where we're going. So
Whoever
which
wants
way
to
we
go
going?
next.
Well, one of the things you can convey is that you're in need of a date. As most of you guys, who follow me on Instagram, I'm either cooking or I'm doing something in my yard or I'm out on my bike. So I'm not going to be running around, oh, I need a date, I need a date. I'm just like, yeah, yeah, happens, something comes up, whatever. Like, it's, again, if you convey a need, you're toast. If
I
you
would
convey a
say,
need and ask someone how their weekend was, you're toast.
yeah, I would say as far as scheduling goes, usually it depends on how big the pipeline is and how aggressive you want to get with it. Like the most amount of girls I've ever seen at once was three in one day, back to back to back. And one was a total disaster, one was phenomenal, and the other one was like literally meeting like the top tier like Darth Vader version of a female, where this girl, if she wanted to get a house or a jet or whatever out of me, she could have gotten it. It was, her game was right on point. But that's a whole other conversational
Yeah, it's a
topic.
numbers game, right? I mean, that's why you have to
Yeah.
book it face to
And I
face,
would-
because in real life is always different from this shit.
Right. And I would also
Where-
say that
Where I'm at now, with sheer population density alone, I think there's like 30 million people in this like cram metro. I get 2 or 3 inbounds a day without even touching the app. It might not be what I want, but it's potentially, hey, what are you doing tonight? Oh, cool. I see you're in town. Oh, like I'm going to be over there later today. Those are all invitations to initiate conversation and move things forward.
and I
And
would
that's
say
just that's sheer population density.
yeah, and I would say
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
qualifying, like having a pretty aggressive qualification process is key, because like my flake rate right now is about maybe 10%. So like for every 10 girls that I schedule for a date that I meet off of an app or anything, only one of them winds up flaking on me.
I wanted
So
to talk
and
about flaking too, because like your flake rate, Jaron, was real high, compared to what I
Yeah, that's
remember.
high.
Mine's closer to like renegades, like maybe like 1 in 10 would flake on me.
and I'm here in LA, which is like, like you want to talk
Flake
about
City.
one of the places where people are like,
Like
we
flaking's part of the
invented it.
game. Like flaking's
I've-
always part
I've
of the
added-
game. She gets back
I've
together
added
with her
another
boyfriend
layer.
or some shit. Like something happens, right? Like it happens.
Yeah.
I've
So,
started adding more
here's the thing.
qualifying questions too, like oh, hey, are you free the entire night, or is it just gonna be a meet and greet type thing? And then If she says, oh, I don't know how long, but great. Well, I'll do an hour. Keep your night open if you wanted to extend it. If you can't keep it open, then let's do another night when you're free. So you start eliminating those potential flake things like, oh, I'm going to try this guy out. And if I like him, there's another guy. And, oh, he's a maybe plan. You start kind of weeding them out on the front end. And then my flake rate, I think I mentioned the community a couple weeks ago. It was to the point where I was booking 3 a day and all of them came through. I'm like, oh, God. And that is a logistics nightmare. You don't want to do that. It ruins your whole day.
So I'd say for those guys
I was like, all right, now I get to be more selective. Like now I just literally get to choose.
Well, I'd also say for guys starting out, you should just, stick to 1 a day and always have like a backup plan where it's like, hey, if this girl doesn't show up, then either you go with a friend or like for me, I got a ton of other side projects. So it's like, all right, this girl doesn't show up. All right, I'm going to keep working on this side project this night. And then we'll see what happens the next night. So for guys that are first starting, 1 a day is plenty. And it gives you enough to think about.
That's a new rule for me now, and now it's like going to be like 2 or 3 a week maybe, because you don't want to put your whole day around it, but it does zap your energy too. And I like having creative, ready to go energy for guys in other communities that tap into that stuff.
All right, Paul. Let me
so Rich, one of your sorry, go ahead, Paul. You were going to say
yeah. So I was going to say what my flake rate was very, very, very low after a point. And I noticed it's a difference between day gaming and apps. So apps tends to be a lot faster. So you're making connections faster, having quicker conversations, having quicker closes. What that means is there's less emotional buy-in for that meetup. There's less investment for them. So you're just going to have more. The general rule is the less invested that they seem and the less time you've had to build that investment, the more chances that they're going to flake. So that's an increased flake rate. So sticking to the apps versus more or less approaches, you're just going to have more flakes with the apps. Now, I primarily was somebody who I would game people on evening, daytime, whatever, as I went about my life, because that may allow me to be really selective on who I wanted to hang out with. And if you have enough hot girls around you in where you're at, the population's good enough, you have enough selection. And if you're good at that, then you can, once you make that connection with somebody, you can get some investment from that initial conversation. I'm usually going what I call 2 or 3 levels deep, immediate, like pretty quick in a conversation, and they're having some fun. And then I do that close. It might be just a number, social media close. They go to my social media. It's high DHVs on social media. If it's number, the texting now back and forth is pretty limited. And usually I get a lot less flaking. So that was the thing, being more selective with that. So that's just something to think about. And when you're talking, as far as apps are concerned, I would actually intentionally not close because I had too many girls I was, had on my plate. And so I would not close a lot more often. I would look to a little conversation here, send a funny meme. Then I might get in a little bit deep, like, tell me about that, or what made you choose that thing? And I would get deeper than just surface conversations, which would make them a little bit more invested. And then I'd go several days, if not weeks, maybe a week or so without talking to them. And so now that naturally demonstrated higher value. She knows I'm dating. I must be dating other women, which was the case. And so now when I go to close with her, she's already had a few conversations and she's already interested and curious provided she continued to talk with me, right, and have those conversations. And then my flake rate is a lot less, once I go to close.
One of the things that's really, really important to minimize your flake rate is to only deal with women that have genuine desire in you. Like, you'll know it, okay? Like, it should be obvious that she digs your vibe. I'm like, one of the obvious signs is that she's going to start to ask you some questions. And not just like, boring shit like, what do you do for a living? Like, she's going to be like asking you questions like, hey, that third picture is really interesting. Where were you when you were on that boat with those other 2 guys that looked like a party, sort of thing, right? Because she's interested in what goes on in your life. And that starts to lower the flake rate too. Irishman, you wanted to say something before Paul started?
Yeah, one of the, again, when you're doing performance measurement versus, your old mistakes that got you nothing versus what we've learned in the community. And one rule that I've really adhered to was something you mentioned, Rich, was like, first day, let's go and grab a coffee. And that just weeds out a whole ton of crap, because if a girl's really interested in you, she'll be like, yeah, sure, we'll grab a coffee at such and such downtown. And if she's a flake, if she wants, because a lot of times you'll hear chicks say this in conversation, oh yeah, I'll go on a date with him, and they'll pick, some nice high-end restaurant downtown where you'll end up dropping $350 on a meal for two with a whole ton of cocktails, and then you'll get a little peck on the cheek. Though. Yeah, and you'll get LJBF'd at the end of the night, but you're $350 lighter. So that's something I stuck hard and fast to, which is great. And as I said, like, two of the main things I have learned in here is stick to that and just inject your personality into game as well.
Yeah. Well, also,
and have some.
To build on that, I would say, like, talk to everybody, because a lot of times guys get in this thing where it's like, oh, I only need to talk to like a 9 or a 10, like. Whatever. If you're matching with girls that are all 5s and you're just starting out, like, again, life is a contact sport. The more people you contact, the better that you'll do. And so, like I said, back in last year when I was
guys that say that I only talk to like 9s or 10s are never 10s themselves.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like what I said. I was
talk to all
women
women the same. Like, I'm flirty with every woman I talk to, even the little cleaning ladies that come in. Yeah,
exactly.
Because other women see that, like,
does she have nice
like
boobies?
This guy makes women
want to
feel
motorboat
good.
them? Say hi.
Yeah, just learn how to talk to women in general.
I kind of take the Tate
goof.
I kind of take the Tate approach when I hear guys say 9s and 10s, and I'm like, bro, you ain't even seeing 10s.
Yeah.
Like, you're in your life, they're not randomly at the club. They're at some high-end club behind the VIP. Bro, you ain't seeing 10s.
No.
Like, I just got back from Vegas for a week, and I'm like,
you don't get a lot of 9s
bro,
and 10s on dating apps to begin with. So
they're not on dating
chill
apps.
out, buddy.
Yeah.
But
the biggest people guys lie about is the SMV the girls are seeing, how many girls are seeing, and of course whether or not they have frame or not. That's always fun. Guys
go to the
start
gym
off a
between 6
conversation.
and 8 a.m. in any like kind of middle upper income tier in any city anywhere in the world, and there's where your 8s, 9s, and 10s are at. They're not out at the clubs. They're not doing. They're railing blow until the sun comes up. They're at their gym where you need to be at those hours.